We have been discussing about dominion model ethics. Actually, this model has caused so much damage to the natural world for the past 2000 years, especially Western religions. They are known as the monotheistic religions. They were operating on this model of ethics. And we know very well what happened for the past 2000 years. How land, water, air, life has been damaged systematically. And high economic growth is the one example what dominion model ethics has spawned, and recommends capitalism, high rate of consumption, high rate of lifestyle, high carbon footprint. In this sense, 8 billion people today, if everybody follow the same kind of lifestyle, what the Western world is following today, collapse is inevitable. There are no resources. Anyway, dominion model ethics is not good. It doesn't have a good history at all. Just now I told you that Pope Francis has written a beautiful encyclical called Laudato Si. After the lesson, you go to library again, pick up Laudato Si and open the book and read paragraph number 67. 6-7. Lynn White Jr., when he wrote that article, Historical Roots of Our Ecological Crisis, you know which year he wrote it? 1967. 1967. See, Pope Francis is writing, responding to Lynn White Jr.'s article in the paragraph number 67. You should note that point. 1967 he wrote, Pope Francis is addressing that issue in the paragraph number 67. That is a coincidence. So in which he is writing, and also he is admitting that yes, it is true that Lynn White Jr. article at last, it spoke the truth. So at times we Christians did not interpret the biblical text correctly. We interpreted based on anthropocentrism. These kind of interpretations we need to reject. Reject. That is the word he is using in the paragraph number 67. He is telling that being created in the image of God does not give you a license to exploit other creatures. It doesn't give you a license to control the non-living and the living parts of the creation. So we need to reject the dominion interpretation for the past 2000 years. It was misinterpreted. So now Pope Francis is interpreting that dominion word very nicely. As I told you, dominion means it is not controlling and dominating. It is showing mercy, compassion, empathy to the abiotic and the biotic world. It's a beautiful, beautiful writing. You need to read paragraph number 67 in order to understand the impact what dominion model ethics has made, and also in the future we should not repeat the same interpretation what we have been accustomed. We need to reinterpret, revision the text. You need to reinterpret. First you reread the Bible in the fresh light and you reinterpret it and revision it. That is how you can create a beautiful environmental ethics for the future. I hope you understood what dominion model ethics is all about. So now we are going to move on to the second model ethics known as the stewardship model ethics. So the previous model saw earth as the source of all value. I told you, it looks like Alibaba cave. Everything is available inside the cave. Go and take it, whatever you want. So we have seen earth is the source of all value. But in this model of ethics, stewardship model ethics, man becomes the source of all value. See the difference? The first one is earth becomes the source of all value. Here man becomes the source of all value. Man is still important. Still we maintain that we are the image of God. We are a superior creature. Still we maintain that in the stewardship model ethics. The stewardship model ethics is based on Genesis chapter 2 verse 15. That is what Pope is reinterpreting in the paragraph number 67. I told you, just now. He is telling dominion model ethics we should reject it and we should go for stewardship model ethics. In the same paragraph. You just go and read it. I will read the whole paragraph later in some other discussion, but you can read it today when you go for lunch or after lunch. You go to the library and you read it. So Genesis 2:15, what does it say? It simply says, when God created the first humans, He gave a mandate. What is that mandate? Till it and keep it. Till it and keep it. What does it mean, till it? You use the land, you use the resources, you use it and keep it for the future generations. Your usage should not damage the usage of the future generations. In other words, use is recommended, abuse is prohibited. Use of the natural world is recommended, but the abuse of the natural world is prohibited. Genesis 2:15, till it and keep it. In the modern world, it has got a different connotation. See the word I have put it there, sustainable development. That what it means. Till it and keep it means God is recommending sustainable development. This is the word you read every day in the media, television, internet, on the radio, on the international summits, United Nations summits. You hear this word very often, sustainable development, sustainable development. All the 200 country prime ministers and presidents, they are well versed, they are obsessed with this term sustainable development. So God recommended when He created the Garden of Eden and the first humans, this is the mandate He gave: sustainable development. Till it and keep it. Use it, don't abuse it. See, at last, humans have come to the biblical foundation. At last. This is amazing. You know, United Nations summits, they are about about 8 plus. 8 to 12, the major ones and the minor ones. About 12 summits have been organized so far. 1992, Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. That is the first time they brought that word sustainable development. And then came Kyoto, Japan, United Nations Climate Summit in Kyoto, Japan. In 1997, they repeated the same word, sustainable development. Then came Copenhagen, Denmark, 2009. Again, same word, sustainable development. Then came Durban, South Africa, in 2011. Same word, sustainable development. Then came 2015 in Paris, United Nations Summit. That is the same year Pope Francis also promulgated his encyclical Laudato Si, same year. And his document also recommends sustainable development. United Nations Summit in Paris 2015 also recommended sustainable development. Before that, there were many minor United Nations summits like Vienna Convention, Montreal Convention, Stockholm Convention. All these small summits were also using the same word, sustainable development. In order to understand sustainable development, you need to go to Google and search about sustainable development. You need to read personally. I mean, I don't have time here to explain what it means. Only I can give you a general idea about sustainable development. So only you need to educate yourself. So I think in order to make stewardship model ethics more effective, sustainable development knowledge is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, we can't make a stewardship model, bioethics, we can't do it. So Laudato Si encyclical also offers so many guidelines. But if you want overall guidelines, overall view, you need to go on the internet and read what sustainable development is all about. So anyway, the biblical stewardship is a little different. Till it and keep it. So man is the authority. That authority is given not to dominate. That is given to serve. To serve. See the last words? Responsibility, faithfulness, accountability. Those are the words you have to factor in when you talk about stewardship model ethics. I think I am afraid so far we talked about stewardship model ethics, but without responsibility, without faithfulness, without accountability, which ended in disaster after disaster and disaster. But if you use those three magical words, I think stewardship model ethics will be very effective. It will end up in creating a positive world. But stewardship model ethics is still anthropocentric. Human person is the center of creation. Still we maintain that we are the special creature. We are the image of God, created little less than an angel. This kind of emotional mindsets we use in this model of ethics. But humans care for creation. That is the good note. Even though we are anthropocentric, we still feel the responsibility of caring. See, caring, protecting, conserving. Like Psalm 23, all those words from the Psalm you can factor in stewardship model ethics. But at the same time, we feel that intent to serve our needs. Creation is serving our needs, yes. Without taking resources, you can't exist. That's why God said, till it and keep it. Till it means there is an intention that creation should serve our needs. There is intention there. Here, instrumental value is exalted, highlighted. When we see creation, what we use dearly has more value. Coconut trees have more value. Mango trees have more value. Apple trees, more value, instrumental value. But we forget the intrinsic value of a eucalyptus tree or a Parthenium plant or a Velikatha tree or acacia tree. We brand them, they are thorny bushes. They are poisonous. Eucalyptus and Parthenium, poisonous plants. Let us destroy them all. But we don't see the intrinsic value there. That's why we want to destroy. We see only instrumental value. That is a big mistake what steward is making here. The problem in stewardship model ethics, the steward is enchanted by instrumental value of the natural world. He is enchanted. Wow, those trees I have to cultivate, I have to protect. Mangoes are delicious. I need to grow them. See? But we feel obnoxious about eucalyptus or acacia trees, which we consider that they are thorny bushes. Destroy them. But if you consider the intrinsic value of those trees, you will not destroy them. You will accept your ignorance and you will admit that, oh my God, eucalyptus trees, I don't know what they are doing. Acacia trees, Parthenium and Velikatha trees, I don't know what they are doing, but they are doing something good because God found them good. That is what Bible says. 6 times in the first chapters of Genesis, we read again and again and again, whatever God created, He found that it was good. Even coronavirus, God found it was good. Today we want to destroy coronavirus, but we can never destroy anything. Even we don't have ability to destroy. That is a desperation we are pushed into. Coronavirus is not an act of destruction. It is an act of creation. It is creating a new biological sensitivity. And also it is building a new immune system. I mean, our future generations will be stronger because of corona infection. I mean, I heard in Kavarapeta, few people are infected. Don't be afraid. Everybody will be infected in 10 years. In 10 years' time, every one of us on the planet, 8 billion people, will be infected. And we will come out successful. That is how we submit ourselves to the Darwinian principle, the survival of the fittest. That is how we will make ourselves fit for the future. Our children will be stronger because of corona infection. You know, the body, the mutation, the changes what we get from the infection make us stronger, more complex, so that we can survive in a hostile environment into the future. Because in future, the temperatures will be more warmer. Maybe 2 degrees, 3 degrees Celsius will be increased. So it's not a warmer, it is a balmy climate. So in order to survive in that balmy and hot weather, coronavirus changes our genes. So we can survive even 65, 75 degrees Celsius. That is how creation is renewing itself. You know, Revelation chapter 25, verse 1 or 2, we read, "Behold, I am making all things new." The Lamb sitting on the throne says, "Behold, I am making all things new." New. So coronavirus is nothing. It is making all things new. It is the act of creation. It is not act of destruction. So it is called intrinsic value. Actually, I am talking about intrinsic value of the coronavirus. If you see instrumental value only, you want to destroy desperately coronavirus. You can't destroy. You know, coronavirus has been living on this planet 3.8 billion years. How long you are living on the planet? 3 million years. Humans are living only 3 million years. Coronavirus living 3.8 billion years. And yet you think that you are going to destroy coronavirus? No, you must be a fool. You must be a fool. Why don't you blend with coronavirus? Make friends with coronavirus. He is our friend. He is not our foe. He is not our enemy. I mean, the flu virus, malaria virus, we gotten friendly with them. I tell you, most of the brothers are infected with flu. You are in love with flu. Everybody loves flu. All that thing going on. You have learned to live with flu virus. Why can't you learn to live with the coronavirus? What problem is there? You are not in charge. God is in charge. He creates all of that and He gives it to you, and He found that it was good. Then why do you want to kill it? So, Again, I'm telling you, we fail, our ideas fail, our philosophy, theology fail when you think only about instrumental value of the natural world. And we blend in with the rest of creation when we see the intrinsic value of the natural world. So anyway, the stewardship model ethics so far, we find ourselves that we have created a wide gap between humans and creation because of instrumental value thinking. We make a wide gap. But intrinsic value thinking, the gap will be reduced. We become integral and we will be united with the whole of creation. So in instrumental value thinking, there is no sense of solidarity with other species. We call it kinship. You know that word, no, kinship? So that word we are missing in instrumental value mindset. Intrinsic value, yes. Kinship, we become one family, according to St. Francis of Assisi, cosmic family in which there is only one Father. We are all His children and we become siblings. In instrumental value mindset, there is an overemphasis on mastery or mastering the planet, like genetics, genetically modified food, genetic engineering. So we want to have a mastery over anything, and we want to change the DNA, and we want to find out what's going on in our genes, in our deoxyribonucleic acid and ribonucleic acid. What is there inside? Adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine. Shall we shift them? What is happening with the mutations? Can we interfere with the mutations? So that kind of mastery we need to, we are obsessed with, and also we love to control nature because it is used for only human interest. We are eating 75 to 85% of the chemically produced food. You know that? 85% of the food what you eat is genetically modified. In other words, 85% poison you are eating. So you are putting inside. Because we have created that food through genetic manipulation and controlling nature. Even animal products, the chicken, the sheep, the fish, what we eat, all are genetically modified, which is not good for our health. Of course, it's not good for the future generation, for your children. Thank God we are not going to get any children. Thank God. We are not really destroyed. We are not sinning in that. Yes. But what about other family people? They are putting all genetically modified food. And what do you expect in the future generations? Their mind is poisoned. Their body's genes are poisoned. I mean, is it ethically right? That's what I'm asking. So you are the students of environmental ethics. You need to examine all these happenings. Otherwise, we are going to add more problems to the planet. Anyway, in stewardship model ethics, we can reduce our economic growth and bring it to the middle, medium economic growth. Maybe 7% GDP is okay. If every country follows 7% GDP, China 13, America 15, India 9. I mean, there is a competition in the pursuit of GDP. Why should we do that? Can't we agree and come to a consensus? All the 200 countries, let us go for 7% GDP. and limit the economic growth to middle, which is known as medium economic growth. High economic growth is destroying. You can't balance between nature and high economic growth. You are consuming more resources than nature can produce. In medium economic growth, we can balance. Yes, there will be a balancing act between nature production and human reception. What we take is balanced with what is being produced by ecosystems and biomes, by nature. So stewardship model ethics is better than dominion model ethics. It's better, but it is not the best. But let us go to the third model ethics and find out. Sorry, we still continue with the second model. Little more explanation on sustainability and stewardship. I think you will understand better. Sustainability is a balancing act. The United Nations 1987 report of the World Commission on Environment and Development, our common future, noted that sustainable development meets the needs of the present without compromising the well-being of future generations. That is one of the definitions, but good definition. So when you read on the internet, you will get hundreds of explanations. All of them are good. All of them are good. They offer a lot of wisdom. What sustainable development means. You know, I want to teach you one word when we discuss about stewardship model ethics: tragedy of the commons or communal property. Communal property means we hold common to everybody. You know, in your village, you have a mountain. That mountain is a common property for everybody. Nobody can claim it is mine. No. It is called communal property. And also lake. You know the lake? In summertime, I remember as a kid, I used to graze buffaloes. My father had some 10 buffaloes. So when I was studying high school, I used to graze buffaloes. I used to sit on buffalo. I used to go like a cowboy. All the time on the buffalo. Not like a cowboy, like Yama. Like Yama. Used to sit and ride on buffalo. So that is the place where I graze my buffaloes. Because during summertime, lake is dry, only grass. So all the buffaloes, village buffaloes, cows, sheep, everybody comes there. I thought lake is better than the church. You know, in the church only humans come. But in the lake, humans come and also buffaloes come, cows come, sheep come. The whole earth community gathered in a lake ecosystem. So in the village also you had lot of places like small thorny bush areas, dry land, or a small pond or a river. These are communal property. Nobody owns them. Nobody owns them. Everybody can go there. So the next word is called tragedy of the commons. In other words, tragedy of the communal property. Tragedy. So when some people come and destroy the mountain, they establish a stone quarry and extract blocks of stones and make gravel and powder the mountain. That is called the tragedy of the commons. For example, lake. Lake has lot of acacia trees. You know, every village, lake, they have acacia trees. That means vela maram, karuvela maram, no? Acacia trees. So when some people come and cut down and take the log, that is called tragedy of the commons. You know what happened few years ago in Tamil Nadu when that cyclone came and completely all the houses were filled with waste, no? The Kuvam river brought all the waste back and gave it to all the people and distributed to every house their waste. Told, you keep it, I don't want it. Yeah, so that is the cyclone which taught us that we shouldn't destroy communal property, because all that vast empty area like drainage land was taken for construction. The developers, they put malls, they put housing complexes, because that area was the lake area where the water can go. When rain comes, that water can go and disappear in that land. But what happened? Everything was constructed, but there is no drainage land there. So cyclone produced so much of water, there is no place to store that water, so the water entered every house. So when you destroy communal property, when you make tragedy of the commons, ecological crisis is going to end up at your doorstep, in front of your house, at the back of your house, left, right, above and down. You can't escape. So I think as environmental ethics students, today you just list in your journal, in your book, what kind of communal property you have in your own village and also in Kavarapeti. What kind of communal property are there and how many communal property disappear in your village? So what can you do about it? And also you can examine your village now. Right now, what are the activities done against communal properties? All your mountains are destroyed right now? Are your lakes being constrained now? Are your rivers being diverted? Your ponds being buried? Your forest being deforested? See, all these questions today, when you go home tonight in your study, you make a list. Because this is a beautiful word, tragedy of the commons. So your homework today, I want to give you two subjects, sustainable development and tragedy of the commons. All right? So, commonly held resources are degraded and destroyed by self-interest. That is shortest definition of tragedy of the commons. Commonly held resources are degraded and destroyed by self-interest. So that is the shortest definition. You got it right? All right. Next slide.